Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Friday, March 1st, 2024, and it is the first day of Women's, and I'm going to go ahead and say Women's History Month. They say Women's History Month, but we are coming off of Black History Month and going into Women's History Month, and I thought it was so apropos to ask our Congresswoman to come and chat with us today on the heels again of Black History Month and going into Women's History Month. And so I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, hit that share button and invite not only her constituents, but others from across the country. Shout out to everyone that is listening over on Instagram. Michelle Thompson, good to see you. The archangel of music ministry here, doing so many wonderful things with her gift. We are so glad to see those of you that are here with us this morning and to get the best use of her time, because I know she does a lot. We're going to go ahead and bring in our Congresswoman. She is looking a wonderful day. It's the glasses for me.
Well, I'm just trying to be like you. Actually, a little confession. Because of my my alopecia totalis, I don't grow eyelashes, and so I wear fake lashes. But on the days that I'm running late and didn't have time to put lashes on, I put glasses on. So really not trying to make any deep statement. Just don't want to be on here with no lashes.
Okay, Congresswoman, because I almost said AP. Good morning. How are you doing? I always start with checking in on you and seeing how you're doing. You fight for Black joy. You fight for us. You are doing so much. And so I have to ask you, as AP with all due, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I put a post up on my Instagram, my personal Instagram yesterday when I gotten back from the gym, just saying that I felt I was carrying a lot of grief in my body. And I don't think I'm alone in that. There's just been so much loss all around us. And I recently lost one of my campaign kids suddenly, a young person who worked for me very hard for my election to Congress. A young man named Luke Santos, and just in our family and in our friend circle, there's been so much loss. So I just was reminding everyone to breathe. Recently, I realized how often I hold my breath, and just the necessity and the healing and the restorative work of breath work to address that trauma and that grief that we carry in our body. So I'm doing all right. I'm picking up new tools every day to help me better navigate and to manage. But 30,000 lives in Gaza and Palestine, mostly children, over 11,000, 1,200 Israeli lives, community-based violence every day. I think we still are recovering in many ways from the impacts of COVID. So I just, I wish everyone luck in their journey. I'm picking up new tools every day, and I'll continue to share the tools that I'm picking up.
Absolutely, Congresswoman. I just want to ask our mother's board, y'all know how we do. Add, as Erin said this morning, add Luke's family, the Santos family, to your thoughts and prayers. And Congresswoman, we definitely want to send strength and joy your way. Is that I recognize that local there. Who that?
Oh, okay. This is my girl, Erica Alexander. If you didn't recently see American Fiction, my lipstick print is on this mug. But this says Ride the Maverick. This was the campaign slogan for her character, Maxine Shaw, on Living Single. That character ran Max.
Yep.
She ran for office, and she was considered a maverick, somebody who was, very unconventional, very audacious, and that was her campaign slogan: "Ride the Maverick."
Got you. Congresswoman, I want to jump right into a little bit of policy, and then I want to check in with you, just as I said, on the heels of Black History Month, some of the things that you named. And hold on, there's one comment here that I absolutely have to put up. I was going to sneak. I was going to sneak and call him, but shout out to the brother Conan Harris, who is the beautiful. I need to have y'all on for Valentine's Day next year.
I wish someone would. This is not just my husband. He's my smartest, confident. He's a strategist and community builder in his own right, and my partner in life, the love of my life, but also my partner in good. And we do a lot of that work together. A little social racial justice tag team. So I'm putting it out there. Somebody have me and my baby on together.
Listen, the idea came. Aaron is in the room next February. Don't book anything. Okay, so one of the first policy, maybe only policy things I want to check in about, and then I also want to offer you time to speak to women, speak to Black women. One of the first policy things, I had the opportunity of joining you the other day on the briefing about the 44 million, part of which, and you can let us know what part of which. Wait a minute, Conan said no.
He said no to coming on. Okay, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving here. Go ahead.
All right. And transportation and justice and transportation equity is something that's very real. And live the other day, Congresswoman, you heard my question on the briefing. As a driver, it's interesting. But in talking about this the other day, what hit me was that those that are most impacted by the inequities and the lack of justice, I would presume that most of them ride public transportation. And so as a driver, I'm listening, and I talked about the polls and whatnot, but can you just tell us a little bit, as the co-founder of that caucus that's looking at transportation equity? First of all, thank you for advocating for the funds and support for that. So your thoughts on Blue Hill Ave? We know they're doing it block by block. I'm sure you're aware that there's some folks that aren't in agreement. And so your thoughts on that? Thank you. And it's really, really appreciated, because we need transportation justice. And again, those of us that drive, but people need to get to work on time. People need to get grocery shopping. People need, and everybody don't drive. So
sure. Yeah. No, well, let me just contextualize this. Okay.
Yes.
So my job as a federal elected is to deliver federal funds and to advance federal policy. That's my job. Okay. The city of Boston approached us, myself and Congressman Stephen Lynch, about their desire to receive a federal grant called the RAISE grant. And that grant was for $15 million. Myself and Congressman Lynch advocated for the city of Boston to be awarded that grant, which they petitioned us for to help them secure. We then delivered that federal funding of $15 million, this RAISE grant, to support this multimodal infrastructure project. Okay. Now, Jimmy's referencing a caucus that I established. I established a caucus in Congress called the Future of Transportation Caucus. And the point of that caucus is to champion the need for federal funds when it comes to transportation, to center the prioritization of equity, accessibility, connectivity to jobs, to school, to housing, and sustainability. Okay. And so in many ways, this multimodal infrastructure reimagining of the Blue Hill Avenue corridor meets many of those goals. Equity, accessibility, and connectivity. That is the most important part. There was a study done, I think it might be as old as 2015 right now, but many of the statistics still persist, that Black Boston bus riders ride, wait, and transfer an additional 64 hours a year. So what does that mean? That sounds like not a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, that means that Black Boston bus riders are riding, waiting, transferring longer to get to work, to get to childcare, to get to healthcare appointments. So when you talk about the disparities in this district, in the Massachusetts 7th, I believe those inequities have a lot to do with a lack of access to affordable, rapid, and reliable transportation. And as we found with the free bus fare pilot program initiated by Mayor Janey and then continued and expanded by Mayor Wu, that is game changing. There were cities like Lawrence, Massachusetts that piloted those efforts before the city of Boston. And we saw that increased many people's earning power, just being able to have access to rapid, reliable transportation. I remember when I was an aide for John Kerry, myself and the 2 other Black staff, shout out to Roy Martin, as one of them, and Jeanette Boone, and also Judith. We were late to work every day. And we were late to work every day because of where we lived, right? So there's been a robust community engagement process about the visioning of this process, and that work is not over. This is just the first phase of the project, while there will also be simultaneously beautification investments along the corridor. But I want to say this about the disruption and the unease that it does cause people.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. So what I'm trying to say is that we want change, but we don't want change. So nothing changes if nothing changes. So that means we have to disrupt the status quo way of being. We have had, this is one of the most unsafe corridors. So as much as this is about economic justice, racial justice, transportation justice, housing justice, it is also about public safety, because we have seen an increase in pedestrian fatalities and motor vehicle collisions. This is one of the most dangerous thoroughfares in the city of Boston. Mm-hmm. And that is why these investments are necessary. So I don't want to give short shrift to the concerns that are valid that people have about the ways in which this could be disrupted. Change always yields disruptions. But what I am calling on the city of Boston to continue to do is to move with transparency, and to ensure that the community has agency over the process.
Congresswoman, I appreciate that. And thank you for giving the context to that as well. Whether asked or voluntarily, we appreciate the advocacy that you and Congressman Lynch did to have that happen. Thank you for also naming the importance of the continued community engagement of the city of Boston. So it is much, much appreciated. And I had this thought, it's sort of full circle for you, because one of the things that you talk about often is the disparity on a particular bus ride.
Mm-hmm. The number one, right.
And so I'm thinking about that as you explain this. And thank you for that nugget of, if nothing, what is it again?
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
And 2 other points there.
Yes.
Many people ride the bus not as an option, but because not as a choice, but because it is their only option. And so you're talking about our most vulnerable, low-income families, low-wage workers. I want to name our elders, for whom many of them, they can no longer drive. This is the only way that they can remain some independence and age in community. It is also a disability justice issue as well. So, for many people, public transportation and the bus specifically, this is not one transit option or alternative. It is the only choice they can make.
It's interesting, because I was going to make a point before we move on. I had Sheena Collier and Dart Adams on yesterday, and we were talking about this subject. We were talking about COVID, and this may be a good segue into talking about how you view our history and things that are going on to dismantle it and cut it off and take away. By default, Congresswoman, when we hear about change, because real valid life experience, we're like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? And so that is real. Thank you for naming and that, not even validating. Thank you for naming the concerns of those that, you know, may be opposed. And Representative Holmes said it well. Those that make that noise often make projects like that better, because they're just calling for things.
Absolutely.
And naming for things. And so if I
also want to say that sometimes some of the loudest critics don't live in the community. So I really just need to name that. So I do think that those that challenge the process, hold us accountable, call the question, they do make the projects better.
Yeah.
And you should hold us accountable and ask those hard questions and ensure that your voices are being heard. But sometimes the voices that overtake the debate don't even live in that community.
There's a lot on social media. There's a lot of misinformation that goes out from racists, and they create little Twitter accounts and try to look like media and whatnot. And so in that context, this is Women's History Month. We're coming off of Black History Month. As a country, Congresswoman, where are we when it comes to Black women?
Well, again, Black women hold this unique space. I believe this dichotomy of being hyper visible, which is why we are police surveyed, our bodies criminalized, our hair criminalized, but we're also hyper invisible. Well, there is often a delegitimizing and an insensitivity to our disparate health outcomes, to the ways in which violence disparately impacts us, and also that there are disparities in pay. So the challenges for Black women are articulated just in that dichotomy, that we are hyper visible and invisible. I do want to say that one of the major ways in which I'm trying to address this, because policy is my love language, so I have many, bills from the Crown Act to address race-based hair discrimination, to the Mommies Act to address the Maternal Morbidity Act, to repealing the Hyde Amendment, which is racist and discriminatory and denies access to abortion care, which is health care. For our most vulnerable low-income women of color. And there are many more pieces of legislation that I could name. But the key thing I want to name that I'm fighting for in this moment is for the Equal Rights Amendment. So just like y'all know that Black folks were not enshrined in the founding document of this country, our Constitution, neither are women. And what is the 28th Amendment? It just says that equal rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. That's it. That's not controversial. Equal rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any states on account of sex. And for 100 years, we've been fighting for gender equality to be enshrined in our Constitution. That surprises a lot of people because they just assume that it's there. It is not. And the reason why it matters is because you take an issue like the Dobbs decision and the overturning of Roe. That set a precedent, right? So even though we passed the Roe Act in Massachusetts and abortion access is protected in Massachusetts, federally, we see a denial of this access to this critical and sometimes life-saving healthcare for those managing abortions and miscarriages and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they started with access to abortion, then they went after birth control. Now they're going after IVF, right? If gender equality was enshrined in the Constitution, the many ways in which women are either targeted or neglected, we would have legal protections. Maybe the Supreme Court, which is right now far-right, extremist, imbalanced, and repeatedly overturning the will of the people with decisions like gutting affirmative action, from higher head, obstructing the president's executive action on student debt, which would benefit Black women because Black women are the most educated and carry the most student debt, as an example. Perhaps that the courts would have operated with greater caution if gender equality was enshrined in the constitutions and they knew we had that legal protection.
I one thought there, and there was so much to unpack there, and thank you for everything you do in policy, but a thought I had there when you mentioned the Supreme Court, there is this interesting perspective of some when it gets ready to come to this national election. It's coming up soon. Concerns. You've called out some things and asked for some things and ceasefire and whatnot. Can you, at the level of which democracy is under attack, can you speak to our young people and Black folks about how important it is to vote in this upcoming election? We're in it. Super Tuesday's coming Tuesday and whatnot. When you mentioned the Supreme Court, a lot of that right leaning to which you referred is because of the president's ability to appoint and blah, blah, blah. And the risk of this national election is interesting. And so can you speak to the importance of young people and Black folks participating and also looking at the larger picture of democracy?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay, let me correct the record on something really quick. So in the Supreme Court, especially since Mitch McConnell just announced that he's retiring, the reason why the Supreme Court is far right and extreme is because when Barack Obama was president, the Republicans in the Senate said, Barack Obama, let's make sure he's a one-term president. That's the first thing. And then secondly, they denied confirmation of his Supreme Court nominees. And so that
it's the first thing that
left things right in a limbo so that they could then advance their own nominees. So they were playing this long game. Okay.
Yes.
So I just need to say that this far-right extremism that we see throughout the country, from school boards, if you talk about book bans, the banning of our intellectual freedom, disproportionately of Black authors, Black stories, LGBTQ stories, from school boards to City Hall to state legislatures, all the way to Congress, to the Supreme Court, which have now been enlisted as co-conspirators and accomplices in this far-right extremism, in the gutting of voting rights, in the gutting of affirmative action, in the overturning of reproductive rights and abortion justice. This is a very coordinated, unrelenting attack that every day becomes more emboldened against the backdrop of white supremacy. So let me just be clear about this. I do not believe, Stacey Abrams said this, and I share her belief. I do not believe that we elect saviors. I believe that we elect partners. So, and part of partnership is accountability. And I hold the Biden-Harris administration accountable every day. I push them on many things, from abolishing the death penalty to reforming our clemency system, to cannabis, conviction expungements, to broad-based student debt cancellation, and I could go on. So I hold that administration to their position currently on the Israel-Hamas conflict. So I have no problem being outspoken, and I would not discourage anyone from expressing their grievance, their disappointment, even their betrayal. But at the end of the day, you are only electing partners, not saviors. And you have to know, for those things that we so desperately need, like universal child care, like paid leave, like housing investments. There was $150 billion investment for housing and Build Back Better, and that died. And we need that. We need that money. We need that. So what I know for sure is the things that I care most about, I'm not going to get with Donald Trump. I know that. The things that we most need, we forget 4 years. We cannot afford 4 more minutes of Donald Trump, because I really believe, and I know Charlamagne said this recently on the Breakfast Club, and I don't disagree, and many others share this belief. I believe that if Donald Trump is reelected, he won't leave office.
And that's the thing I've said.
He will not leave office. This is not a drill. When we talk about the undoing of democracy and a march towards fascism and authoritarianism and mass deportation, and again, an emboldened and frightening white supremacy, we forget 4 years. We cannot afford 4 more minutes of Donald Trump.
I thank you so much. I was going to ask you to go in when you said the analogy of electing partners and not saviors. You went a little bit deep, because the point that you made, and I've said this to someone the other day and they laughed at it. I said, if Donald Trump gets elected again, that is what we know as a presidency. That will be the last sort of what we know as a presidency until we, God forbid, have to overturn and whatever. But I just, when you mentioned the Supreme Court, thank you so much for going back to the foundation, not just with the appointments that he did, but I remember it was discovered that they said that, we are not going to let him get anything done. You know what I mean? Who is the general what is it, Congresswoman? The federal, what is this? The general attorney, Merrick Garland.
Oh yeah, right.
He was supposed to be, on the Supreme Court. That was a nominee. So the other piece, Congresswoman, because I know our time is short, is I've been asking folks to cast sort of their vision for all the work that you do and others do. We just left Black History Month. This is Women's History Month. If there was I got this right here. If Cora is in her freshman year, well, maybe speed it up a little bit because Cora's growing up. If Cora's in her senior year in college and she's writing about history for the past 20 years, what would that, according to your work and your vision, what would some of the sentences and paragraphs look like in such a writ?
I couldn't give you the exact language, but thematically, what would I want? What would I want her reality to be? Right now, because again, gender equality is not enshrined in our Constitution, and I've introduced legislation to, finally after 100 years, to change that, for that to be ratified and enshrined. And I'll come back some other time to talk about that. But I think because we don't have that, the indignities, the disparities, the violence, the injustices that women experience, it's become normalized. I don't want my child to normalize and conflate as a part of being a girl, being a woman, being a Black woman, to conflate it with all of these things. Like if you ask most Black women, have you ever been harassed or felt unsafe or whatever, they might sit there and say, I don't know. You know why they would hesitate to answer? Because these sort of microaggressions and hostilities are such a
norm,
such an integrated part of our lives that you don't even think about it as an anomaly, as something so outrageous, so harmful to even keep track of it, right? And so I don't want that for my daughter. I want my daughter to be able to show up in the world fully, authentically, and unapologetically as herself, without fear and without discrimination.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want her to be seen and heard, safe. And I don't want there to be any limits on her dreams and aspirations. And I want her to be paid and compensated according to her worth and her value. I'll just close here because it is a Women's History Month. And so who has been the most formidable woman in my life? My mother, who was a righteous role model. And because it was just my mother and I, because she raised me alone, I saw my mother as a woman, not just as my mother. A lot of kids have to grow up and become adult children before they see their parents' humanity. But because it was just me and my mom, I knew her as a woman, not just my mother. So I was there when dudes broke her heart. I was there when she was being victimized by domestic violence, and I was jumping in the middle, trying to keep her safe. I was there when she was trying to heal traumas that were never addressed, like sexual abuse and rape in her life. I was there when she shared her own story of a back alley abortion as a young girl. I was there when she was struggling with fibroids, and the doctors very aggressively had her have a hysterectomy very young in life, and she didn't get to heal from it because she had to go back to work or risk losing her job because we don't have paid leave. And she collapsed on the street on her way to that job, right? I was there when she would come home and talk about the white men that she was training, who were then being promoted over her and paid more. So here was a Black woman who was doing everything possible to make sure I wouldn't be denied or deprived any opportunity in life, who was fighting fiercely to protect me, making great sacrifices to give me the best life possible. But every day I was seeing these indignities that my mother was being confronted with. There were an affront to the very things that she was trying to make possible for me. And it's my proximity to her pain, her joys, the complexities of being a Black woman that have so formidably shaped me, but also the work that I do every day.
Congresswoman, it again, you said it to me once, but there are about 3 times with you that there's so much to unpack, and I got to get the team to get us maybe some more time, or actually sit down face to face. But one, honoring your mother, who I know was a champion of yours, and is the greatest historian your life. I definitely, and having the opportunity to see her celebrate your victory that night up at, what was the place in Asheville? Yeah, that was I still got the picture. That was so amazing, and so honor to her, and Cora as well. I saw a different demeanor when I mentioned, I think I know you fight for us as a people, but we saw when you talked about Cora, there was a different demeanor, more, it's all personal to you, but I appreciate your transparency. Congresswoman, I know you got
I want more and better for her,
yeah.
And in the spirit of my mother's humanity, let me just name her name, which is Sandy Pressley. So I think that's important.
Y'all take Sandy Pressley's comments.
Yeah. So, but thank you for having me. A happy Women's History Month. But just like Black History Month, Black history is American history. That's every day. Women's history is American history. That's every day. Yeah, I just appreciate you so much, and have a great day, everyone.
All right, Congresswoman, thank you. Appreciate you. Everyone, that was our Congresswoman, as always, keeping us abreast of everything that she is doing in community and also fighting for us. And Anthony said, thank God for Sandy Pressley, because without her, we wouldn't have Congresswoman Pressley. So, and she often talks about her dad as well. And so I really appreciate the Congresswoman coming in. I can't wait to have this sit down face-to-face chat with her. That's very different, as you all saw yesterday. And oh, that's Aaron. I seen a link. There was somebody in here trying to put up some crazy links and whatnot, but that's Aaron. So that one is safe. Go ahead and follow what Aaron is directing you to. I got to get ready to get out of here, because as y'all see, I got to go get this stuff together. Ian, what's up, brother? Over on Instagram, good to see you, man. Darian, good to see you in the room. Body Prime Fitness, good to see you in the room. Good to see everybody in the room over on Facebook, and also Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, on the website. Thank all of you that joined us today. Listen, don't forget, coming up on March 21st through 23rd, we are having the Java with Jimmy anniversary. More information is coming out about that very soon, Miss Teresa. I will be sure to eat later on. That is taking place. We'll have more details to come out. But Wednesday, March 21st, we're asking those of you that can make your way over to GBH at the Boston Public Library. On the 22nd, we're having the Red Cup Awards. Information is going out. The awardees have been notified. Lasagna, you have an amazing weekend as well. Speaking of this weekend and Lasagna, hold Sunday evening. Right now, we potentially have a couple of folks that we're going to speak with from Brockton. Parents from Brockton. There's a lot going out there that Sheena and Dart mentioned yesterday. You see in the media and on social media as well. But getting back to the anniversary, the Red Cup Awards are on the 22nd at 6 o'clock, and also the day party for the turn-uppers and the celebrators. That's taking place on the 23rd at Estella's. That is a ticketed event, letting you know now. All right, so that's it for me. What's up, Squeaky? My name is Sweeney. For some reason, Congresswoman middle name. Okay. I always go to call her Squeaky. Good to see you over there on Instagram. Folks, we will see you on potentially Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Shout out to Brother Newt Johnson. Lasagna reached out as well, and others that are trying to connect me with folks from Brockton so we can hear directly from them about the things with which they are dealing. That's it for me today. Outside of that, we have more Women's History Week or more Women's History Month continuing next week. Next week, so far for the lineup, we have scheduled on Monday. We're going to do some mental health Monday check-in, just me on Monday. And also on Tuesday, we are going to have, on Tuesday, we're going to have Carmen Blyden. On Wednesday, we're going to have Mayor Wu. And on Thursday, we're going to have Michelle D. Smith, who is a Java family member who's in here commenting often. So please be sure to join us next week. And we appreciate you. I love your hair out for you. Thank you. Thank you. Squeaky. What was I getting ready to say? I got to get off of here so it cannot be out anymore. Because this is the only time I want to cut it. Y'all, I did this. Wash, blow dry. And it's the only time. Well, I'm not going to lie. But I often have the thought, if there were a pair of clippers around and a good barber, when my hair is out and I got to take it out and wash and blow dry, oh, trust and believe, we'd be going back to a nice 360 wavy Caesar. Everyone, have a great weekend. We appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you on potentially Sunday at 7 p.m., but definitely on Monday at 9 a.m. for Mental Health Mondays. Have a great weekend, everybody, and make sure, I have noticed on Facebook that Exit Fame's video and also the video from yesterday where we were not playing any music, Facebook has become very interesting in cutting off 2 episodes where Black folks were sharing their testimony. And so I'm in the process now of appealing some things. But if you want to catch both videos, go to Java with Jimmy on YouTube as well as on Twitter and check out the video from last Thursday evening with Exit Fame. Dope video. And then also yesterday's session with Sheena Collier and Dart Adams. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. And I got to get out of here. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.